Okay, so this is SPSS. This is what the icon looks like. So this little button down here, it should have like a little blue button with like a little sigma, and then it's got an alpha and then a little division sign there, right? So depending on if you're looking at this at the campus or somebody else's computer, your own computer, because you would like to get the SPSS directly through IBM. Again, I think it's like for 6 months for like 35 or 36 bucks. So you click on that. Sometimes this dialog box will come up, right? If you don't want it to come up every time, you just click on don't show this dialog box in the future. But if it does come up, you just double click new data set, and you should be able to see a new data set. So a blank data window should come up. Again, sometimes that dialog box isn't there ever. If somebody else has already clicked don't show me this again, but again, if you purchase that 6 months subscription, you'll have it there. But if you don't want to see it all the time, then you can just click don't show me again. Okay, so what we have here is we have a blank dialog box. And in this screencast, we're going to go over how to enter data. And like I mentioned in the PowerPoint, one of the main successes with SPSS is just knowing how to enter in your data and then knowing how SPSS stores and uses your data. So with this example, we're going to talk about 2 students, right, where they're going to be a Sally and a Mark. And I'm going to show you how to enter in the answers to their survey they took. Now, again, it's just dummy data, it's just sample data. These are not real people. So the survey was given to several students for the 4 different classes, and this is just Sally's information and Mark's information. Okay, so the first thing we need to look at here is rows versus columns, right? So your rows are horizontal, right? The right and left, that's where we're going to enter in each person's information, and the columns are the different variables. Okay, so let's go ahead and start entering in the variables. The variables that we're looking at for this example is things like their ID number, right? Obviously, ID numbers vary between 2 people. Day of class, did they take the class on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday? And then class time, was it a morning class or an afternoon class? And then if they're a morning person or not, what their final grade was, and whether or not the student worked outside of school. So to start entering in some of the variables, let's start with variables first. Let's give that, so you click on the variable view tab down here, right? So you can toggle back and forth. This is where you're entering the data, but before we enter in data, we have to have variables that we're going to enter in data for. So you click on variable view and go to the very, very top left-hand side where it says name. So the first thing we're going to name is ID, right? So every student has an ID number, so we're going to say ID, okay? And then other variables are going to be, again, like I said, what day was the class, was it a Monday, Wednesday, Friday class, online class, Tuesday, Thursday class, that kind of thing. Okay, and so then the next one is going to be time of day they took the class. Was it a morning class or an afternoon class? And then asking the person, are they a morning person or not? What kind of grade they got in their Psych 101 class? And if they work in addition to going to school. So if you notice here, none of the values are set because we have to set those values. Okay, so let's go ahead and start entering in or coding, right, some of the variables. So for the variable of ID number, you can leave that blank because the value is their variable. But for the day, right, so you notice when you click on it, you'll get like a little gray box right there. Okay, so let's go back up to day. Okay, so for a value of 1, we're going to call that our Monday, Wednesday, Friday students, right? So if you took a class on Monday, Wednesday, or Friday, you get a value of 1. You can either click add, or, because 2 is going to be for Tuesday, Thursday, right? So Tuesday/Thursday, if you just push enter, it goes there also. Okay, so 1, if we enter in, their data is a 1, that means that we know they took their class on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And when I'm all done, and again, I can enter in a value of 3 for online, a 4 for Saturday only, that kind of stuff, however many variables you want to give that specific value. Okay, you push OK, and you'll have it up there. And you can kind of go like this if you want to see all of it. Okay, and the next one is time, right? Did they take it in the morning or did they take it in the afternoon? So 1 is going to be our morning classes, and 2 is going to be our afternoon classes. Okay. Let's see, our next one is, are they a morning person or not, right? So for a 0, we're going to say, no, they're not a morning person, but 1 is, yeah, they're a morning person. And then again, we hit OK, and that's going to log it in those values. Grades we leave blank because their grade, again, is their value. If they got an 89 in the class, well, we're not marking that as anything different than just 89. And then work, do they work outside of going to school? So if they go to school full-time with no work, it's going to be a 0. If they work part-time, that's going to be a 1. And if they work full-time, then that's going to be a 2. Okay, and press OK. And then in addition to the values, I need to give labels to each one of the values. So I need to give value labels for the different variables. Okay, so like I mentioned, the day would be day of class taken or something like that, however detailed you want to get. The time would be like, well, is it a morning or afternoon class time? Right, so time of class, sorry. We'll go time of class. And then are you a morning person? Right, because this was a survey, right? And then what kind of grade they get, and then do you work in addition to going to school? Okay, so each one of our values have labels, and this helps us kind of keep it straight when we start entering in data. We're like, what did we ask them? What was a 1 again? What was a 0? Oh yeah, if you're a morning person, 1 is you are a morning person, and 0 is you're not a morning person. Okay, so let's go ahead and start entering in some data. So to do that, you click on the data view, right? Because we have our variables defined. Now let's start entering in our data. So for Sally, right, what was her ID number? It was like 494593. Okay, and for her, she said that, well, she took her class on Tuesdays and Thursdays. That's going to be a 2, right? And hers was it was an afternoon class, which was a 2, right? And then she is not a morning person, but she got an 85% in the class, and she does not work in addition to going to school. Okay, and then Mark, his ID number was 1901, and he took his classes on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, which was a 1. And he took his in the morning because he said he was a morning person, and he scored 83% in his Psych 101 class. And he says, yeah, he works, but he only works part-time, so it's a 1, not a 2. Okay, now if you look up here, A1, right, so that's like a bright pink A and 1. So what you're looking at there is, well, it toggles back and forth, right? So this is the value labels icon. And watch what happens. So I entered in the numerical codes, right? Watch what happens when I click it. See how it actually says now, like, what those codes were for? Remember how we said that Sally did Tuesdays and Thursdays in the afternoon? She was not a morning person. She got an 85 and no work. And when I click it again, it goes back to the code. So if you want to look at it like human versus computer, right? So humans like to look at it like this, but when you're entering in data, how the computer really reads it is like that. So that's the value labels. You can also go up to like view and click on value labels, right? But most people just click this because it's faster. Right? It's just right there. Okay. So let's see here. So loading and saving your files, right? So it's just like normal. You go up to File, and you go Save As. Now for this class, what I want you to do is I want you to do your last name followed directly by your first name, and then the word lab, and then whatever kind of lab we're working on, right? So this is going to be lab 2. And you hit save. Now, .sav is saved for an SPSS, just kind of data file. It won't, once we get into output, you'll go like, it'll be SPV for output, but that's not until later. I already saved it like this, so I'm going to say yes, I want to replace it. So now I have it saved as my last name, first name, lab number 2. So what I want you to do, and save your work often because sometimes computers crash. I want you, for your lab for this week, I want you to do all that. And I also want you to enter in, like, don't enter in your real student ID, but like a dummy student ID. And then say, oh, well, yeah, I took my class on a Tuesday or something like that, or a Monday. And yeah, it was in the morning. I remember that, right? And I'm not really a morning person, though. But I scored a 93 in the class, did awesome, and I was working full-time, right? So enter in your data from your Psych 101 days. And then what I want you to do is either take a screenshot of this or send me the save file, the .sav, and that's what you'll get your points for this lab. Awesome. Reach out to me if you have any questions. Thanks.